My name is Brent Baird, and flow meters are my life. Some might even say that I eat, breathe, and live for flow meters. I take every opportunity to find and explore new applications. That's why they call me the Flow Meter Guy. So, get ready to learn about flow meters. Oranges. Just like most folks, my morning routine starts off with a nice glass of orange juice. But it wasn't always that way. You see, it all starts in the orange groves of Florida back in the late 1920s. Up until then, orange juice was considered a luxury. It was something that you experienced seasonally and freshly squeezed. You see, the problem with oranges is that they don't ripen anymore after they're picked. So when the industry got around to canning the juice, it lost its flavor and some nutritional value during the pasteurization process. Enter World War II. The U.S. Army was worried about scurvy among the troops because they had trouble convincing the recruits to eat their sour-tasting lemon crystal rations. This motivated the development of the good old frozen concentrated orange juice. All you needed to do was just add water. And then around the 1980s, they came out with the familiar orange juice in a carton that you will find in your grocery store shelves today. As I said before, many of us start our day off with a nice glass of OJ. I wonder how much juice is in this orange? I bet we could find out by using a flow meter. Let's review our application to measure flow in orange juice. Well, you're going to need a flow meter that is sanitary or non-contact because it's a food product. And it's not a lot of juice. So the meter will also need to measure a pretty small line size with the ability to measure a relatively low flow rate. Perhaps something like this ultrasonic flow meter. Interesting. This little block here is a complete non-invasive clamp-on ultrasonic transit time flow meter. So how does it work? The SemiFlow sensor utilizes the ultrasonic transit time method. The math equation requires a defined distance across the pipe, or in this case, a semi-rigid tube. So the problem is with this type of tube is that the shape is not perfectly round or consistent in any way. So the math equation will not work with undefined parameters. So to resolve this issue, the flexible tubing is inserted into a channel like this, which forces the tubing into a defined shape. And now we have the required dimensions for our math equation. As you can see in the diagram on the lower right-hand corner, the gray represents a flexible tube with a liquid flowing from left to right. 4 piezo elements are arranged in an X pattern. The transmitter sends pulsating ultrasonic wave at a predefined frequency from one side to the other. So, A1 sends a signal to B1 and is going in the direction of flow, and the transit time is noted. At the same time, A2 sends a signal to B2, but in this case, the signal is going against the flow current and would take a longer time to transit the tube. The difference in transit time between the upstream and downstream is proportional to the average fluid velocity. And since we know the area of the tube, the volumetric flow is calculated in engineering units. So, A lot going on with this little sensor, huh? Pretty cool. The SemiFlow is ideally suited for PFA and other hard plastic tubes and pipes. And other versions are available for flexible tubing. Now, the sensors are designed for a specific tube size, 1/4 of an inch up to 1 1/4. This little fella here today is 1/4 of an inch, which we'll use for our experiment today. Getting back to pursuing our quest and answering my original question, how much juice is in this orange? Well, as you can see, I spared no expense, which means that I didn't spend a dime on these parts that I found in the store closet to fabricate this home-built flow loop. Remember these when you were a kid? At Command Central, okay, my laptop, we can monitor the flow of our juice. To set this up, you need to use the Sonotech software to communicate with the flow sensor, and this will allow you to monitor your flow. The SemiFlow comes calibrated for water-like applications, but it can be calibrated for just about any liquid. If you don't want to use a computer, you can use an optional remote display or just a 4 to 20 milliamp output signal. With this small tube, non-invasive technology, this flow meter is ideal for medical, biotech, semiconductor, chemical feed, and industrial process applications. Well then, it appears my orange juicing methods need to be reevaluated. You know, these things never did work when I was a kid either. Well then, my flow test indicated we have about 4 milliliters of juice in this little guy. Coincidentally, that's about the average for the typical orange. I guess I could have just Googled that at the beginning of this program, but then again, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to enlighten you about oranges and flow meters. So, hope you learned something today. I know my little friend did. Wee! 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 That's why they call me the flow meter guy. We'll see you on the next video.